Hello everyone, it's Danzy. Before we get started, I just want to let everyone know that this review contains cute dog pictures. Renly turns 1 year old this week. Happy birthday, boy. It's always a joy to have you snuggled by my feet when I make videos. I also want to apologize for this week's video being a bit shorter. I leave for a much-needed vacation this week and won't be back until Sunday, so I wasn't able to write something as long as I normally do. Sorry for the inconvenience. Next week's review will be back up to around the usual 9 or 10 minute mark, I promise. And, as always, here's all the stuff I normally say at the beginning of these videos. Let's get started. I mean, I think this was almost everyone's favorite, wasn't it? This was easily the most captivating scene of the episode. These two actors had a really good back and forth. It was also just a very fun and very apt curtain call for this character. I can't think of a better ending for her. I like this a lot. It's sad to see her go, really. I have a lot of fond memories of this character, and Diana Rigg played her really, really well. Also, what the hell, one last time for the road. Alright, so I saw your guys' comments from last week saying that maybe I'm not giving Euron's character a fair shake. And hey, if you guys like him, that's cool. I'm not here to shame anyone for which characters they find engaging. I just personally disagree with the idea that he's all that original or interesting. I think they wrote a character that's pretty forgettable and silly, when he could have been something really great if they had just given him more thought. But moving forward, I honestly didn't mind the dungeon scene. It's totally not out of character for Cersei to do something like this to someone who killed her daughter. I'm really glad that they chose poison as a means of killing Tyene. Getting Gregor to come in and smash her brains all over the wall just for the sake of gore would have been pretty overblown. I'm fine with scenes like this when they serve a purpose, and for the most part this did, so fair shout, I guess. I do feel really bad for the actress who plays Ellaria, though. She's always been way too good for this poorly written role. I think the sadness of this scene would have landed a lot better if these characters had been even remotely likable, because then maybe we'd actually give a shit about them dying. Cersei actually proved herself to be kind of smart in her scene with Tycho Nestorius, whose name I always pronounced as Tycho Nestorius in the books. I don't know why. But it was nice to see her use the trademark Lannister silver tongue instead of just threaten to kill him if he didn't give her what she wanted. It's more attentive writing. I'm trying to be as professional as I can here, but I'd be lying if I said these scenes weren't a struggle to stay awake through. A lot of Tyrion's stuff was good, in fact some of his best scenes in a long while. But the meeting between Daenerys and Jon, I had a lot of trouble getting invested in. I want to say that it was because these two actors don't really have much chemistry together, and at points I could have sworn they were both reading their lines off of cue cards. But truthfully, I think the dialogue was just lacking. So much of this was just exposition followed by a very surmountable disagreement. It seems strange to say so little about scenes that took up nearly half the episode, but that was kind of it for me, really. I do think this plotline has the potential to be more interesting in the future. I just found this initial setup to be really slow. Okay, so as a book reader reviewing these episodes, I try really hard to judge the show on its own merits, and not be one of those people that starts every criticism with, well, in the books they did this! However, the people in charge of this show obviously read enough of the books to know what Casterly Rock is, who it's home to, and even that it's positioned on the coast. So, surely they would know that it's this larger-than-life place, right? I guess I'm just a little let down at the uninspired design choice to make it look like the most generic castle ever. In fact, it and Highgarden look like they could almost be the same place, just from different angles. Compare this to the Season 1 establishing shot of the Eyrie, which was dripping in creativity. But the bigger problem I had with these two battle scenes, on top of them being way too rushed, was Tyrion's commentary of every single shot of the Unsullied storming Casterly Rock. He was narrating this like going through the sewers was some complex plan, and not one they've already used before. I get that Tyrion has a connection to this place, but good God, guys, show don't tell. Well, that was easy. 10 points to Ravenclaw, Samwell. Man, it's almost like Jorah didn't even need to get grayscale in the first place, and could have just arrived at Westeros with Daenerys. Yep, almost. Okay, writers, you really need to give Littlefinger something more interesting to do. You've squeezed all of the meaningful dialogue out of him that you can. He's just rewording the same things over and over again at this point. Always be prepared for different outcomes is pretty obvious advice that I think Sansa could have figured out on her own, dude. And then we have Bran, who... What? Why is he suddenly acting like this? He became the Three-Eyed Raven last season and was still perfectly normal afterwards. And the previous Three-Eyed Raven didn't act like an emotionless robot. Because, here's the thing with Bran, even though he's been given insight into this mystical information, he's still very much a good-hearted young boy with a sensitive way of processing things. What reading of his character are you making to think that him callously bringing up his sister's trauma is something he would do? You could have had a brilliant conversation between these two, and explored the parallels of how they were both naive dreamers who experienced a loss of innocence. Instead, Bran doesn't get to be a character. He gets to be Exposition Bot 4000 for Jon. Maybe this would make more sense if they actually gave Bran the screen time to transition into this. If you want these powers to have a negative effect on their user, then you need to show us. Not letting us spend time with Bran and then expecting us to swallow this change is a slap in the face to his character and those of us who were invested in him. For me, this has been the biggest blunder of the season so far. An unfortunate trend of this episode was the writers not giving their audience the space to deduce anything for themselves. Like, oh, you brought together ice and fire. Thank you for explaining that to me. I hate having to use my brain to work out obvious symbolism. I always try to be as balanced as I possibly can, but honestly, very little about this episode worked for me. Most of these scenes were either showing cracks or outright crumbling. But, as always, I want to hear what you guys thought, so let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to further support the channel, head on over to the Patreon where you can get some cool rewards for donating. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.